The sun poured gold across the cobblestone streets of San Cristobal de las Casas as tourists filtered into the artisan market with their cameras and curious eyes. But for Mateo Alvarez, nothing about this place was a photo opportunity. He walked slowly, hands buried in his pockets, the weight of his tailored coat heavier than usual, the hum of soft guitars, the clink of handmade jewelry, the laughter of street kids, all of it felt distant. He wasn't here for souvenirs. He told his assistant he needed a week off, no emails, no meetings, no damage control, just space. After his father's death and the silent collapse of his engagement, Mexico, the country he'd left behind at 15, was the only place he could think to run. San Cristobal was quiet, warm, full of color, and for some reason, he needed that. He passed a stall selling embroidered shawls and paused. The woman behind the stand, maybe late 20s, had deep brown eyes and long black hair tied in a loose braid. Her sleeves were rolled, fingers moving quickly over a needle and thread. A little girl sat beside her on a folded cloth, drawing on cardboard with a broken crayon. The woman didn't look up, but the little girl did. Big brown eyes, unflinching. She looked no older than 5. Mateo forced a polite smile, ready to keep walking. Then the little girl stood up and said softly, "Señor, ¿estás triste?" He blinked. "Are you sad?" she repeated in English, her voice so clear it surprised him. He chuckled awkwardly, unsure whether to respond. But before he could say a word, the woman looked up sharply. "Luna," she warned, her tone calm but firm, "no molesties." "No la molesta," Mateo said gently. "She's fine." The girl tilted her head, stepping closer. "You look like my papi when he was still alive. He was sad a lot, too." The words hit harder than they should have. Mateo's throat tightened. The woman stood brushing her skirt. "Perdón, señor. She talks too much sometimes." Mateo shook his head. She's honest." The girl, Luna, pointed to his face. "Your eyes are tired. My mama says that means your heart is tired, too." He smiled faintly. "She's very smart." "She is," the woman said. "Too smart." "I'm Mateo," he offered, "just visiting for a while." "Camila," she said with a nod. "We live just over there, past the plaza. Your daughter's English is perfect." "I teach her. I used to be an English tutor. Before everything." Mateo didn't ask what everything meant. "Do you want to sit?" Camila gestured to a wooden crate beside the stall. He hesitated, then lowered himself. It had been a long time since someone offered him a place without expecting something in return. Camila went back to her embroidery. Luna leaned against Mateo's knee like they'd known each other forever. "She doesn't do that with strangers," Camila said quietly. "I'm not used to kids," he replied, "but she's different." Luna looked up at him. "Do you have a daughter?" "No. Do you want one?" Mateo blinked. "That's a big question. I think you'd be a good daddy. You listen slow." He laughed, really laughed, for the first time in weeks. Camilla's eyes flickered toward him, softening. "What brings you here?" "I needed to breathe." Camilla nodded slowly. "We all do, sometimes." A silence settled between them. It wasn't awkward, just full of unspoken stories. "I lost my job," Camilla said after a moment. "Well, quit it, really. Too many things I couldn't control. I started this stall to survive." Mateo glanced at the modest setup. Cloths, hand-stitched dolls, a jar of lemonade. "You're strong." Camilla met his eyes. "You don't need to say that." "No," he said quietly. "I do." Luna climbed into his lap without asking. He looked at Camilla, unsure, but she didn't stop her. The little girl whispered something in Spanish. "¿Qué dijiste?" Mateo asked softly. She repeated, slower this time. "No necesito dinero. Solo quiero un abrazo como el que le das a tu hija." "I don't need money. I just want a hug like the one you give your daughter." Mateo froze. Camilla looked up, lips parted in surprise. "Lo siento," Luna said, seeing his face change. "Did I say it wrong?" Matteo shook his head slowly. No, it was perfect. His arms, as if on instinct, wrapped around the tiny girl, and in that moment, with the late afternoon sun casting gold across the market, something inside him cracked, not in pain, but in release. Camilla watched him quietly, her eyes unreadable. Luna leaned her head on Matteo's shoulder. "You're warm," she mumbled. He didn't say anything. He couldn't. Camilla set her embroidery down, stood, and walked around the stall. "She'll stay like that forever if you let her." Matteo smiled. "Maybe that's okay." She gave a small smile. "You're different than you look." "So are you." Camilla reached for Luna, who grumbled but allowed herself to be lifted. "Come back tomorrow," Camilla said, not quite a question. "I will." He turned and walked back through the square. For the first time in months, he didn't feel hollow. Behind him, Luna waved from her mother's arms. "Bye, Matteo." He turned back just long enough to wave. Camilla didn't wave, but she smiled. The next morning, Matteo woke before the sun fully rose. For the first time in years, he didn't reach for his phone. No emails, no noise. Just the sound of roosters crowing somewhere in the distance and the soft rhythm of footsteps on cobblestone as the town slowly came to life. He showered, dressed in jeans and a linen shirt, something less polished than usual, and walked to the market with a small paper bag in hand. Inside was a box of colored pencils, the good kind, packed in rows like candy. He hadn't even thought about it. He just saw them in a shop window and imagined Luna's little hands gripping them, her cardboard drawing replaced by something better. When he turned the corner near Camilla's stall, he felt a strange twist in his chest, like nerves, like someone who'd said too much the night before and was afraid to hear the echo of it in daylight. Camilla was already there, arranging scarves with practiced movements. She wore a green skirt today, her braid looser, strands falling around her cheekbones. She looked up when he approached, but didn't smile right away. "Morning," he said, holding the paper bag awkwardly. "Morning." A pause. "She's not here yet," Camilla added, nodding toward an empty cushion beside the stall. "My friend is walking her over after breakfast." Matteo nodded. "I brought her something." Camilla raised an eyebrow. "Nothing big," he added quickly. "Just better crayons." She took the bag, peeked inside, then looked up at him. "That's not nothing." "I didn't mean to overstep." Camilla studied him for a long second. "You didn't. She'll love them." Matteo exhaled, unsure why her approval mattered so much. He sat again on the same crate. "You start early." "Have to. Tourists come with the sun." "You ever get tired of it?" "Every day," she said with a small laugh. "But it's mine. That makes it worth it." He nodded. "I know that feeling." They sat in silence for a bit. A dog barked in the distance. Somewhere nearby, someone played a tune on a flute. "You don't look like someone who walks away from things," Camilla said suddenly. Matteo glanced at her. "I didn't walk. I ran." She tilted her head, curious. "After my dad died, I couldn't stay. The company, the house, even New York. Too many ghosts. So I came here. Told myself it was a break. But it's not just a break." He looked at her, surprised. "It's not." Camilla nodded like she understood more than he said out loud. "Your father," she asked gently, "were you close?" Matteo looked down. "Not really. He was a difficult man. Brilliant, but cold. Everything was business." Camilla didn't speak, letting the weight sit where it needed to. "I think the last real thing he said to me," Matteo continued, "was about quarterly reports. Then he had a heart attack in his office." "I'm sorry." "I'm not sure I am," he said quietly. "And that makes me feel worse." Camilla placed her hand gently on the table between them, not touching him, just present. "My daughter never knew her father," she said softly. "He left before she was born, said he wasn't ready. I was 23. Matteo looked at her, surprised. "I didn't chase him," she said. "I figured if he couldn't love her from the start, he never would." "That takes strength." That takes necessity. Just then, Luna came running around the corner, her friend, a teenaged girl, calling after her. She sprinted straight toward Matteo, arms wide. "You came back!" He smiled, opening his arms instinctively. "Of course I did." She climbed into his lap again, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Camilla watched with a mix of caution and wonder. "I brought you something," Matteo said, handing her the paper bag. Luna pulled out the box of colored pencils and gasped. "Mira, mamá, son como los de la escuela buena." "Look, mama, they're like the ones from the good school." Camilla crouched beside her. "Say thank you." "Gracias," Luna whispered, hugging the box like treasure. "You're welcome, Chiquita." Luna sat down right there and began drawing, tongue sticking out with focus. Camilla and Matteo watched her in silence. "You make it look easy," Matteo said. Camilla smiled faintly. "It's not. But I stopped wishing for easy a long time ago." They shared coffee from a small thermos she poured into plastic cups. The bitterness was real, but it grounded him more than any espresso ever had. Later that afternoon, Camilla packed up early. Rain clouds were crawling across the horizon. "I'll walk you home," Matteo offered. She hesitated, then nodded. "All right." Luna held both their hands as they walked through the winding streets. It was quiet except for the distant thunder and the hum of the coming storm. Their house was small, white walls, chipped paint, clay roof. There were flowering plants in old tin cans outside the door.
"It's humble," Camilla said quickly, embarrassed. "It's beautiful," he said, and meant it. Luna ran inside with her drawing. Matteo and Camilla stood by the gate. "She's going to ask if you're coming back tomorrow," Camilla said. "Will it bother you if I say yes?" Camilla looked at him, unreadable. "I think," she said softly, "it would bother me if you didn't." The first drop of rain fell between them. "Then I'll come back," he said, and when she smiled, truly smiled, it wasn't the polite one from the market. It was softer, braver. "Good night, Matteo." "Buenas noches, Camila." And with that, he turned and walked into the rain, something warm settling in his chest, despite the cold drops soaking his shirt. In this part, the peaceful rhythm Matteo has found is disrupted when Luna falls seriously ill. The crisis draws him and Camilla closer than either of them expected, and tests how far Matteo is willing to go for people who've only just entered his life. Here's the continuation, approximately 1,600 to 1,800 words, in the same natural emotional tone. The rain had passed by morning, but the air was still thick with the smell of wet earth, and laundry hung too early. Matteo didn't wait long before heading back to the market, heart light and feet faster than usual. He had begun to anticipate the routine, Camilla arranging her stall, Luna coloring or humming softly beside her, that gentle feeling of belonging that weighted like a blanket. But when he turned the corner onto the plaza, the stall was empty. No table, no crates, no shawls, no Luna. He checked his watch. 10:40 a.m. They were always there by now. He waited 15 minutes, then 30. Nothing. His stomach knotted. He paced in slow, uncertain loops, every bad scenario from his past whispering into his thoughts. Just as he was pulling out his phone, though he had no idea who he'd even call, the teenage girl who often walked Luna to the market appeared, holding a bag of tamales and walking fast. He caught her arm. "Perdón, you know Camila, right? From the stall?" She blinked. "Matteo?" "Yes, do you know where she is?" The girl's face dropped. Luna's sick. Camilla didn't want to leave her alone. Sick? Fever high. She wouldn't stop coughing last night. Mateo felt his chest tighten. Do you know where they live? She gave directions, though he already remembered the house. A small white building with flowering cans and peeling paint. He was there in minutes. He knocked twice. No answer. Then he knocked again, louder. Camilla, it's Mateo. He heard soft footsteps, then the door creaked open just an inch. Camilla's face was drawn, pale under her warm skin. Her hair was undone, tangled. Her eyes were red-rimmed. Mateo, she said softly, I went to the market. I got worried. She hesitated, then opened the door fully. He stepped inside, and the warmth of the house hit him first. Not from comfort, but from trapped heat. The kind that comes from boiling water, drawn curtains, and fevers. Luna lay curled on a mattress in the living room, face flushed, lips slightly parted. A pot of herbal tea simmered in the background. She was fine yesterday, Camilla said, voice brittle. Then she started coughing in the night. Wouldn't stop. Her temperature shot up. Have you seen a doctor? She shook her head. The clinic's full. I waited hours. They told me to come back tomorrow unless it was urgent. Camilla, this is urgent. I know, she whispered. But we don't have private insurance. I can't. Her voice cracked and she turned away quickly. Mateo crossed the room and crouched beside Luna. Her little hand was damp with sweat. He placed his palm gently on her forehead. Burning. I'm taking you both to the hospital, he said. Mateo, no arguments, get what you need. She looked at him, shoulders stiff with pride and fear. Camilla, please. Something in his voice broke her hesitation. She nodded slowly, pulled on a jacket, and gathered a small bag. He carried Luna, her head lolling softly against his shoulder. She stirred slightly as he whispered to her, You're going to be okay, Chiquita. I promise. The hospital was small but clean. Mateo bypassed the waiting line at the ER desk with quiet urgency and something in his stance that screamed authority. When the nurse told him they needed payment before anything else, he handed over his card without blinking. Camilla looked like she wanted to protest but couldn't find the strength. They ran tests, gave fluids, took chest x-rays. Luna had a severe respiratory infection. Not quite pneumonia, but dangerously close. Mateo stayed through all of it. Hours passed. He didn't leave Camilla's side, not even when the nurse gently suggested waiting outside. He held her hand when she trembled. He translated when the doctor used words too fast or too clinical. When Luna finally opened her eyes again, it was evening. Mama, she whispered. Camilla leaned down. Shh, mi amor. You're okay. Then Luna turned to Mateo and murmured, You stayed. He smiled softly. Of course I did. She gave a faint grin. You're not just visiting anymore, huh? Camilla chuckled through tears. Luna drifted off again, calm now. The IV bag dripped steadily. Camilla slumped into the hard plastic chair beside the hospital bed. Mateo sat next to her. Thank you, she whispered. You don't have to. I do, she said, not just for paying, for being here. He looked at her for a long moment. You've done everything on your own for so long, maybe it's time someone stayed for a change." She looked away quickly, eyes shimmering. "Don't say things you don't mean." "I'm not." Silence wrapped around them. It wasn't empty. It was full of what-ifs, of unspoken needs, of something delicate and blooming. He rested his arm lightly across the back of her chair, not touching, just close enough. Camilla exhaled slowly. "She really likes you." "I really like her." "She's never had a man. Stick around." "She deserves someone who will." She turned to him. "And what about me?" Matteo met her gaze, and for once didn't hide. "You do too." Her expression cracked, just for a second. Then she looked away again, blinking fast. "Don't fall in love with us just because we're broken, Matteo." He nodded. "Then let me love you because you're strong." She didn't answer, but she didn't pull away either. Hours later, Luna's breathing eased. Camilla dozed in the chair, her head resting on Matteo's shoulder. He stayed still, careful not to move, watching both of them like they might vanish if he blinked too long. Outside, the rain started again. Quiet, gentle. And inside, for the first time in a long while, Matteo felt like he wasn't running anymore. This part brings quiet healing, love that grows without grand declarations, and an emotional full-circle moment when Matteo, changed by Camilla and Luna, chooses a life he never thought he needed. Expect a slow, heartfelt resolution with warmth, introspection, and intimacy. Here is the final chapter, approximately 1,600 to 1,800 words. Luna was discharged 3 days later with a bottle of syrup, strict rest orders, and a paper crane folded by one of the nurses. She held Matteo's hand the whole ride home, her small fingers curled into his palm like she was afraid he'd disappear if she let go. Camilla was quiet on the walk from the taxi to the house, her free arm supporting Luna, while Matteo carried a bag of medications and snacks he insisted on buying. The house looked smaller now, but warmer. The flowers in their tin cans had bloomed wider after the rain. Inside, everything moved more slowly. Luna lay on the couch with a blanket, her cheeks no longer flushed, her breath steady. Camilla brought her tea with honey, whispered sweet words into her ear, and stroked her hair until she drifted into a light nap. Matteo watched from the kitchen doorway, arms folded, feeling something pressed tight behind his ribs. When Camilla turned, she smiled at him softly. Not the guarded smile, not the polite one. "I think she's through the worst of it," she said. "You kept her safe." Camilla shrugged. "Mothers don't get the luxury of fear." Matteo stepped closer. "You were scared." She didn't deny it. "I was terrified." He reached for her hand. She let him take it this time. For the next few days, he came by in the mornings and stayed until dusk. He brought soup one day, coloring books the next. He helped Luna set up a small drawing corner by the window. He repaired a leaky faucet in the bathroom without being asked. He never tried to replace anyone. He just stayed. Camilla had never had that before. One night, Luna was fast asleep, and the house was quiet except for the buzz of moths at the window. Camilla poured them both coffee, weaker than usual, and sat across from him at the small table covered in faded cloth. "Why are you really here, Matteo?" she asked. He took a long sip before answering. "Because somewhere between the silence and the market, I realized I didn't want to be alone anymore." Her eyes searched his. "You could have anyone, anywhere. A woman without a child. A cleaner history." "I've had that," he said, "and I was miserable." Camilla looked down. "I'm not asking for you to fix anything. I'm not trying to fix. I'm trying to be. With you. With her." She blinked, holding her breath. He leaned forward. "You know what I realized?" "What?" "I came here to run away from ghosts, but I found people who were still alive, and I don't want to lose that." She looked like she might cry, but she didn't. Instead, she reached across the table and touched his cheek. "I can't promise you perfect," she whispered. "I don't want perfect," he replied. "I want real." They didn't kiss, not yet, but something passed between them, more honest than passion, more lasting.
Luna's birthday came 2 weeks later. Matteo brought balloons and a cake, a real one, from a bakery in town with frosting thick and messy. Camilla made tacos and filled the small patio with mismatched chairs. A few neighbors came, and some children from nearby danced to a crackling radio. Matteo watched from the side, laughing when Luna proudly showed him her drawing, a stick version of him holding hands with a stick version of her. Above their heads was a giant yellow sun and 3 hearts in red crayon. "Is that me?" he asked. "Of course," she said. "You're not a visitor anymore. You're part of the picture." He swallowed a lump in his throat. Later, as the sun dipped low and the guests trickled home, Luna climbed onto a chair with her birthday crown made of construction paper and demanded everyone sit down for a speech. Camilla laughed and covered her face with her hands. "I want to thank my ma'am," Luna said proudly, "for always making me feel safe, even when I was sick." Camilla wiped a tear, already defeated. "And I want to thank Matteo, because he gave me collars and hugs and stayed when I thought he would go back to his city." She paused, thinking hard. "You're the best not daddy a girl could have." The crowd chuckled warmly. Matteo covered his face with his hands, his chest heavy with something he hadn't had a name for until now. "Love." Luna jumped down and ran to him. He scooped her up without hesitation. Camilla watched them. Her hands were folded tightly, but her face, it was wide open. Later that night, when the patio was quiet and the candles were blown, Camilla walked up beside him where he was cleaning up paper plates. She meant every word she said. "I did too." Camilla looked up at him this time. He kissed her. It was gentle and rushed. Like a promise, weeks passed, and Matteo made calls he'd been avoiding. He put the company in the hands of someone else, sold the apartment in New York, donated half his suits, bought a small house on the edge of town, not far from Camilla's. Nothing fancy, just enough. People in the town began to nod at him like he belonged. He started speaking Spanish more confidently. Camilla teased him when he got the verbs wrong. Luna corrected him constantly and demanded payment in chocolate when he improved. It was never a grand declaration. No flashbulbs, no ring just yet, but every night he went home with warm food in his hands and laughter in his ears. And every morning, Luna ran to meet him like a sunrise. And one evening, as they all sat on the steps outside Camilla's house, watching the sky fade to a soft orange, Luna leaned against his shoulder and said, "This is the happiest I've ever been." Matteo looked at Camilla. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. He reached for her hand. She didn't let go, and for the first time in his life, Matteo Alvarez, the man who had everything, finally understood what it meant to have enough.